applying to dental school can be a difficult process. It can be hard. It can be taxing. It could be very hard mentally, right?
Yes, sir.
Tell us what was the hardest part about this process for you?
For me, I would say the hardest part was kind of structuring my timeline, um, juggling, school and then working in the summer, just trying to figure out when I was going to start my application process and when I was going to start studying for the DAT. I think just planning to begin applying was probably one of the most difficult parts for me.
Becoming a dentist, a DDS, a DMD, a smile maker, an oral physician is a dream for many people. It's a dream. Stay tuned as we talk to a doc who just got into dental school on his first attempt, his first cycle, and he's going to be the first dentist doctor in his family. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Dr. Darwin, a new dentist coach, with another episode of Ask Dr. Darwin on the New Dentist Podcast Show, where we talk about getting into dentistry, getting into dental school, getting into residency, and then life as a new dentist. Guys, be sure that you are sharing, commenting, subscribing to this content. This content is created for you all so that you have more information to help you fulfill your dreams. Okay. Sharing is caring. Be sure to share this information and this episode with people that you know that are looking to become a dentist, who has a dream of becoming a dentist. Also, this episode of Ask Dr. Darwin is being brought to you by Dr. Darwin On Demand, right down here. Dr. Darwin On Demand, the ultimate resource to support you with some mentorship and some guidance as you are navigating this process called dentistry, navigating the application process for dental school, navigating the application process to become a resident and become a specialist. All right. For more details, go down below and check out the link below. We meet twice a month on Sundays, and those are the office hours. For more details, check it out down below. Also, be sure to stay all the way through to this episode. We've got some great information and some gems that you don't want to miss. All right, so stay all the way through, because today it's a special guest. I've been working with this young man for probably about, 18 months or so. And he's in a very unique program down in Virginia that is supporting the excellence for individuals who are looking to become doctors, whether there's a physician or a dentist. Today, we're joined by future student Dr. Avery, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about himself, especially for those of you that are meeting him for the first time. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself for people who are meeting you for the first time.
As you mentioned, my name is Avery Byrum. I'm an only child. I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia, born and raised. I go to James Madison University. I'm in my last semester, so I'll be graduating here in May. I played baseball here for a year or two, and now I'm thick into the books. Just applied to dental school and just got accepted. Yes, sir.
Awesome. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that process for you, because as most people know and have heard us talk about, this is a process, right? It is a process that requires organization, perseverance, but also guidance and some help as well. So let's dive right on into it, man, because there are a lot of individuals that are listening and watching that want to get to where you're getting ready to go, and that's into dental school. So let's back it up and go from the beginning, because it's important for people to know why. Like, everyone has their own story as to why a particular profession, why you want to become a physician, or a dentist. So why dentistry for you?
Um, I think dentistry for me, I've always really loved humor. I love to make people laugh. And my family, a lot of my family members have had a lot of dental work done, and um, the moments in between their dental work, you can notice when they're more reserved or not as proud of their smile. And I think everybody deserves to smile proudly. I also think a lot of people have a fear of dentistry in general, of the dentist office, and I've had nothing but good experiences, and I'd like to pass that along to the next generation.
That's good. That's good. Now, you could have picked some other professions though, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think another big thing that stood out to me for dentistry is, as far as I know, um, you're able to kind of control your time, have some free time, and family is really big in my life. It's something I was always grateful for. My parents were able to, invest and spend time with me on whatever I was pursuing at the time, and that's something I'd like to have with my family. I'd like to be able to spend time with my future family. So I was really interested in a profession um, that allows me that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, that time is important. And I think it's one of the reasons why a lot of individuals are interested in dentistry because of, the flexibility, some of the components allows you to have a good work life balance, etc.
Yes, sir.
What's
Absolutely.
also what's also uh going to be interesting is you mentioned you're senior and you're getting you got your dental acceptance, so we'll talk a little bit more about schools that you applied to and where you're going to be taking your talents to, but you know not everyone goes directly from graduation into dental school. Some take a year, some may have to take 2 or 3 years, depending on any prerequisites that they have to, put together and complete. And with that also is those prerequisites are part of the application process, right? So share with us a little bit more about like when did you start this process? Because some people come in to college as pre-med or pre-dent the first year, your freshman year. Some people, it's maybe not until sophomore or even junior year. They say, oh, this is the path I want to take, which means you also have to know what classes to take as part of the prerequisites for your application and then start that application. So give us a timeline, a little bit about that background as to when you knew dentistry was going to be what you wanted to pursue, and at the same time when you started your application process.
Yes, sir. So I've always had an affinity for science. So coming out of high school, I had an idea I wanted to be in the health professions, and I'd narrowed it down to the dental field. So coming out of high school, I applied for the Hampton Roads Medical Scholars program, and they were a ton of help. Um, they kind of advised me, and so I came in as a freshman pre-dental, um, and they helped me pick the right classes and make sure I wasn't overloading myself because coming in, taking college courses for the first time, sometimes there's a learning curve between high school and college, and so they kind of helped me juggle and pick the proper classes. And then I would say I kind of got a late start on my application. I didn't start my application until probably late last spring, um, almost the summer, is really when I started moving forward with the application process.
Now, when you say late last summer or spring, that's of your junior year.
Yes, sir. Of my junior year, um, there's a lot of things that go into it. You got to make sure you have all the right classes taken first, especially before you take your DAT. So I had to make sure I'd finished organic chemistry and had all the prerequisites I needed, and then
Ooh,
yeah,
ooh,
I
I'm
guess
sorry. I just I just had chills. You said organic chemistry. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
I know, I know. Yeah, yeah. It was about March or April last year where I started moving forward, um, getting my application together and prepping for dental school
Now
of
you
my
mentioned the
junior year.
DA. Yeah, so you mentioned your DAT. We're going
Yes,
to get
sir.
to that in a minute, but I'm interested in knowing how your school supported your application. For example, I've talked to many pre-dental students that have shared that they don't necessarily have pre-dental advisors at their school. They have pre-med, but they don't have pre-dental, and how that was somewhat of a challenge, or they had to, navigate through that. How was that experience for you at JMU as it relates to preparing and helping you get your application together?
Yeah. So, uh, very thankful. I'm blessed. Jamie has a great program. I do have a pre-dental advisor. I've had one since freshman year, and she's incredibly helpful. I think in conjunction with the Hampton Roads Medical Scholars Program, they both kind of helped me um, be on time. Being on time is one of the most difficult things when applying. So, we had checkups yearly. She would check up. There's like a mandatory checkup, and so we'd have a conversation about where I stand, what outstanding things I have, and then when I plan to apply, essentially. Um, and so that was really really helpful because I can't imagine how much longer it may have taken me to get on track. We actually had a really eye-opening conversation um, early spring of my junior year last year, and she kind of let me know that if I was serious about applying in this cycle, that I had to kind of put my nose down and and make it happen. I had
Yeah.
some things that weren't up to par, and I had to get those things done um, in time to make sure that I was a competitive applicant.
Yeah, she was trying to make sure that you got it done quick, fast, in a hurry, because the cycle and the prerequisites and other requirements don't wait for anybody, right?
Yes,
Either you
sir.
have them,
Right.
if you don't, either you're applying this cycle, or you're not. And she definitely sounds like she wanted to make sure that you had a complete application, right? That you didn't have pieces missing, classes not
Absolutely.
necessarily closely being completed. Uh, Definitely probably wanted to make sure you had a DAT, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So shout out to her. Who was that at JMU?
Her name's Dr. Sharon Babcock.
Dr. Babcock. Shout
She's
out to Dr.
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 Babcock.
Babcock. Thank you very
Shout
much,
out to
Dr.
Dr.
Babcock.
Babcock.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also shout out to my fraternity brothers, my line brother and his son, the Doctors Brown, Dr. Stafford Brown, the third and the fourth, who are the founders of the Hampton Roads Medical Scholars Program. Some great work that those guys are doing for the community down in Hampton, the Hampton area, but also, like you said, through all those young men who are aspiring to become doctors in different specialties, whether it's in medicine, dentistry, etc. So shout out to them, because that is part of that guidance. That's part of that help.
Yes, sir.
That's part of that mentorship that allows you to realize your dream and get this process completed. Because guess what, guys? It takes a village. It takes a village of many different people
Absolutely.
from different parts of the area, of the community, not just the school, but um other people within the community too, and networking. And we'll talk a little bit more about that too. Hey, this is Dr. Darwin. Are you looking for some mentorship, some accountability, some help with getting all of this application and getting into dental school and getting into residency, and then just your life as a new dentist? Look, I'm having monthly, twice a month, live coaching sessions and office hours so we can talk about all of that. I don't want you to struggle with the application process. I don't want you to struggle with getting ready for interviews. I don't want you to struggle about what list of schools and programs to apply to. We talk about all of that in our group, our monthly group called Dr. Darwin On Demand. Dr. Darwin On Demand. Check it out down below here. And then also, if you're interested and you want to get that help so you don't have to struggle anymore, so that you can get some mentorship, some accountability, and some help, hit this link right here. Hit that link right there so we can get you signed up and enrolled today. Today. Your future starts today. And I'm here to help you. This is Dr. Darwin. And join my members-only community called Dr. Darwin On Demand. Look forward to seeing you soon, okay? Now back to this episode. Enjoy. But you mentioned the DAT, and that's kind of like the the hot topic, the hot word on the street as it relates to becoming a dentist and going to dental school. So let's talk about that, man, because there's so many ways that you can prepare for it. There's so many different tools and ways and support and preparations, everything that's there that can help you prepare for the exam. So let's talk about how you prepare. What worked best for you?
What worked best for me was DAT boot camp. And I started my DAT journey on book originally. So I purchased the Kaplan book, and then I got the Princeton Review DAT prep. And I think if anything, it showed me that you can't do it by yourself. You shouldn't try and study on your own. You are gonna have to invest, and it's an investment in yourself and in your future. And so I originally started trying to read through the books, and I just wasn't retaining information at the pace I needed to take the DAT on time. So I signed up for DAT boot camp, and that was a really helpful program. They have like infinite practice tests. That you can set up a study schedule for you. They have teachers and professors that you can interact with that help you teach subjects that you may not have a wealth of knowledge on. You may need, tightening in certain areas. And so they have videos and note cards, and that was a ton of help. That was really the most useful resource for me when I was preparing to take my DAT, was DAT bootcamp. And if I could go back, I would have started sooner, because I didn't end up getting to finish my DAT bootcamp subscription because I had signed up late once I found out that reading a book was not going to cut it.
Yeah, and it really depends on candidates and applicants knowing what type of student that they are, right? Some work best just solo, some work best with using their own notes, but at some very important time, you have to realize that it's a test, and there's a way to take the test, and there's a way to delineate the distracting selection of the multiple choice and getting down to those two answers, right? Which also is puts a focus on those practice tests. So any preparation, and again, I've heard this from many dental students, pre-dental students, those practice tests, whatever program you decide to use, is very key, right? You have to practice using the practice test.
Yeah, 100%.
Simulate that environment of the practice, of the actual exam that you're going to be in. And one of the first steps is that practice test. So shout out to DAT Bootcamp. They are not a sponsor, but hey, DAT Bootcamp, what's up? What's up?
That's right.
Let's get it popping. Let's work something out here. People saying that they liking your stuff here. So DAT. So how long would you say it took you to prepare? What was your time frame of your DAT preparation window?
Yeah, so it took me about 3 months I studied the entire summer, and going back, I think if I was doing nothing else but studying for the DAT, I think 3 months would have been enough time. But I was also, working in volunteer hours and shadowing hours here and there. So I think I really could have extended that timeline, because you can never study too much. You know, you can take as much studying as you need. So um, I started probably at about the end of May, and I studied. I took my exam a couple of days before school started in August, and I actually had to push back my date because I had felt that I wasn't prepared enough, um, and so I think it wouldn't have hurt to have given myself more time by starting sooner.
Yeah.
Um, Studying, you can never start too soon, really.
Never can start too soon, especially with those practice tests, right? Practice
Absolutely.
tests, and then the even doing the timed practice test, which is key. There's a difference.
Those are
You
most
can study
important.
the practice test to see the answers, go back, see why this answer was almost right and why the right answer was the right answer. But then you have to put yourself in a time bomb, so to speak, where you are actually taking a time test like you will be on the day that you have selected for your exam. Um, so that's key. That's key. You said about the DAT that you didn't have enough time. Do you feel like um what part of the prep helped you the most? Was it the practice test? Was it getting the scores back? Was it just what aspect you felt gave you the confidence and the satisfaction knowing, all right, this is the score I got and I'm happy with it.
Right. I would say so. DAT boot camp has a kind of a unique setup. They set it up. They break it up by section, by subject, and then it's sectioned almost into chapters. And for a while, I just hit the chapters really hard, trying to cover all of the information and learn it all as quickly as I could so that I could start taking full practice tests. Because at one point, I began taking full time practice tests, and I found that, if you don't know the answer, if you don't know a majority of the answers, a practice test isn't all that helpful. So I had to be in a place where I felt like I was actually giving myself a chance to answer the questions. So that was really helpful. But the time practice tests were the biggest thing for me. And you can study all you want, but certain aspects and portions of the exam, like the perceptual ability section, you can't just study note cards or flashcards. That is a section that simply requires practice. Um, and it's a ton of questions in a short amount of time. And the timed practice test is the only way to replicate what you'll see on the exam, in my
And and
opinion.
and through those time practice tests, when you got your test results for your practice test, how did you feel? Did you hit your target of a score in each of those sections? Did you have to make some modifications? Because that's key too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, I could definitely tell immediately. So it also broke down my score into sections as it does on the real DAT when you get your score. And I was definitely lacking in certain areas and excelling in others. Reading comprehension and math have always been strong suits for me. So I gave those a little bit less attention, and I focused on the bulk of the information with biology and chemistry, um, specifically organic chemistry. I didn't do so hot in organic chemistry in undergrad, so I needed a little more than just a refresher in organic before it came time to take the exam. And being able to see where my strong suits were and where I was struggling, rather than, I'm a biology major. Mentally, I would think that I would be great at the biology section, and that just simply wasn't the case. I needed more help there than I would have thought I did. So being able to see kind of where my drawbacks were allowed me to study, I think, more efficiently. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's another reason why you have to know what the strategies are on how to practice with the practice test. What information that tells you as far as being able to go back and refocus, refine, re-engage with certain material. And that's why having those practice tests and utilizing them are so very much important, but also um, helpful. And we're spending a little bit extra time on a DAT because it's the thing that many people will get their hang-ups on, right? Um, there are people that get into dental school with DAT scores of 25 or 26. I've interviewed a couple students who've gotten 30 in a couple sections, and I've talked to some students who've gotten 17s or 18s, right? Maybe a little bit on the lower end of the scale. But guess what? They're in dental school. Guess what? They're still in dental school. Guess what? They've graduated. Guess what? They've got a dental license. So, yes, the DAT is important for various reasons, but many schools still have a policy of what we call not global emissions. Um, oh my God, I forget the name of it right now. Not global
Comprehensive,
emissions. Huh?
like a comprehensive look at your
Yeah, it's a comprehensive look. It's
application.
not just exactly. It's a comprehensive look of who you are as a candidate, not just your DAT scores, right? For many schools, it's the shadowing hours, in addition to your GPA. So it's a complete 360 and looking at everything. But I will say, as students have told me, there's been some additional opportunities, especially as it relates to DAT scores that are directly associated with scholarships.
Absolutely.
So for those of you that are listening, knowing that DAT scores are important, they're not everything, but they also have some importance as it relates to some schools providing you some scholarships just based on your DAT scores, right? And there's some schools that have kind of like not a policy, but they just are known to be very favorable to those with those higher DAT scores. So another reason why this is one kind of like universal part of your application that is important, but it's not the most important, right? The DAT is not the most important. And I want to make sure that we share that with everyone so that they don't get hung up on the DAT. It's like, oh, I got this score, I got that score, I'm not going to get in. No, does not mean you're not going to get in. It's just part of your total candidacy. And again, we have it's a comprehensive review, a universal review of your candidacy from scores, GAT, DAT, community service, shadowing hours, letters of recommendation, all of that, all of that. So we're talking about schools and some of their requirements. Let's pivot now to the number of schools that you were looking at um, uh, overall and why you decided on the schools that you picked to apply to.
Absolutely. Um, so I applied to 5 schools. Um, Applying to schools is expensive, so that was kind of in the back of my mind. Um, you can you always increase your odds of getting in if you apply to more places. Um, but you also, I guess, increase the risk if it doesn't pan out. You maybe decrease your chances or your availability to apply the following year. So I was trying to find a balance. Um, and so I chose to apply to 5 schools that I felt like it gave me a good opportunity and it was within my price range. But I applied to Howard, the University of Penn or UPenn, um, VCU, LSU, and USC, Herman Ostrow, the University of Southern California. And I wanted to make sure that no matter where I got in, I was happy. So I did my due diligence. I did a lot of research, and I made sure that the 5 schools that I applied to were places that I could see myself. in the future. Um, because I've heard of people getting into dental school, you know, and if you don't get into your first choice or whatever, you get in elsewhere, and maybe you're not so excited about where your dental journey is taking you. I wanted to make sure that I was excited no matter where I got in. Um, so I narrowed down my choices before I applied, and you know, some of the big things that went into that were, I guess, clinical experience. Some schools offer clinical experience sooner than others, and some schools, um, technology wise, have are more up to date, I would say, um, in the dental realm. While some schools maybe do things more traditionally, and that was one of the things I was looking at. I guess the ability to grow and research new things in the field was really important to me.
That's good. And I'm glad that you focused in on the things that were important to you, because that's going to change for everybody that's listening. It's really important that you do a self-assessment. Yes, expense is going to be one, but you know, where do you see yourself maybe practicing? Maybe where you haven't lived before that you wouldn't mind maybe trying to explore living there for the 4 years that you're in school. Um, Happiness, I heard that. That's key. You know, what makes you happy? That's going to be different for everybody. Everything's not for everybody. Everybody's not for everything. So you want to make sure candidates that you're listening, that are listening and watching, that you know you first and foremost, because that's going to guide your decisions on what schools you're going to end up having on your list to apply to. And that'll be an exercise that you will also have to duplicate when it comes to your your interviews and your acceptances as well, right? Very, very key. Very key. So 5 schools, looks like a little bit of some East Coast here, one in the South and one on the West Coast. So you got a nice little variety
Yes,
across the
sir. Try to
country
spread them
here.
out.
Spread them out a little bit. That's good. That's good. Now, one part that can't sometimes, or is not so good, is the interview. People get really, nervous about the interview, and to the point where it makes them very anxious, have a lot of anxiety about the interview. Tell us a little bit about the interviews that you had and the questions that were asked, especially those questions that maybe were some that you were not anticipating.
Right. Um, my two interview experiences were vastly different from one another. So VCU, my interview was in person, and so I got to meet, you know, all the students and the staff face to face. And I would say that you make it a bigger deal in your head than it really is when you get there. You know, um, you got to take a deep breath and kind of relax and just take it for what it is. They're just trying to see you as a person and who you are naturally. You don't have to be anyone special or outside of yourself. Um, I guess they want to get a good read of your character, and so simple things like, you know, saying hello to everyone, to the person at the front desk, you know, and greeting people, um, with a smile on your face, and being social if that's what you're into. If you're not a social butterfly, then be yourself. You don't have to go outside of your bounds to impress somebody. Um, but I think it's really about, um, just giving them a good idea of who you are. And the Howard interview was online, and it was still a similar situation. Both of my interviews were interviews with two interviewers. So you're not going to be in there one on one. It's not a one on one conversation, at least not in my case, which I think takes a little bit of the tension away. It doesn't feel so strict. And in one case, in my Howard interview, one of the interviewers was actually a student, a student ambassador. So that was even more comfortable. Somebody my age, a familiar face, so to say. And then I would say most of the questions were pretty straightforward. I would say the things that you could expect. The craziest question, or I guess the question that caught me the most off guard, was a morality question. Thankfully, Dr. Brown had me practice prior, but you know, it was sort of a hypothetical situation where they asked, you know, if you were to see your friend cheating, how would you proceed in handling um, said behavior? Or and I think less is more. I didn't try to bounce around. It's really hard to kind of balance um, friendship and the right thing. Um, and so I think I kind of took the safe route, and it's the route that I think you should take, is just say that I can't co-sign on anyone else's poor behavior. Um, I'd have to. It's not fair to everybody else who is working hard to take that test or whatever they're cheating on. But I think they want to get a read of how you are, I guess, in a hypothetical sense. Um, Other than that, most of my interview was very conversational. It wasn't so much of question to question. It was more of an opening of, tell me why about dentistry, what brought you to dentistry, and then we kind of just moved from there as however the conversation flowed. It didn't seem like there were any particular points they were trying to hit. Um, but I would say make sure that you have some good questions for your interviewers, because that is something that I think makes a good impression on people. Um, you should be just as interested in them as they are in you, because ultimately you're also deciding where you want to go. Yes, they're deciding if they want you, and you're deciding if you want to go there as well. So, and these are very accomplished people. Sometimes I think we lose touch with the humanity of it all, but um, talking to people about the accomplishments they've had in their lives, and how they've gotten to be where they are, and what brought them there. A lot of people are from different areas, so just talking to them and being a normal person. Normal, I guess, is not a great word, but um, just being considerate.
Yeah, being considerate, being yourself, right? Because you
Absolutely.
said two key things that I want to emphasize. First one was conversation. Ladies and gents, you need to make sure you are comfortable talking to people on the fly, right? And I don't mean talking to people using text talk, right? No, this ain't text talk. This grown folks talk. This is colleague to colleague talk. Being able to hold a conversation, being able to know when to listen, when to ask more questions, how to engage someone, right? That's key.
Absolutely.
It's a skill set that will take you not only through this interview, but also beyond the interview, into dental school, working with patients who trust us with our expertise to help them with their oral health, but also with your friends and family afterwards as well. So knowing how to have a conversation and be engaged in that is key, because you'll be doing more talking than you will be doing dentistry when you're working with people as a
Kind of
dentist.
on that note too, I forgot to mention, but something that was really important to me, you got to practice for sure with friends, family, whoever you can, because I use a lot of filler words naturally when I speak. Um, um, like
Right.
uh, learning how to remove those things from your speech before you get into the interview. Just practicing how to talk, I guess, properly,
Absolutely.
was big.
How to speak with influence, how to talk with influence is key. Second thing was you said ask questions. Oh my goodness. Part of a conversation is questions and answers and questions. This way, that way, this way. Also very important. So you had two interviews,
So,
and VCU and Howard, Richmond and DC. What were some of the things that helped you decide which program you would want to attend, or which school you would want to attend? And don't tell us what school yet, because I'm going to ask you that separately. But what were some key things for you overall as you got to this phase? What were some of the key things that you needed in a school, that you required from a school, that was going to contribute to determining what school you were going to select?
Absolutely. I think the environment plays a huge role. You obviously want people who have your best interests at heart and ultimately want your success. So meeting people and getting to have conversations with them really gives you an idea of what it would be like to be in at that school. And that was huge for me, getting to speak to some of the students and um, ask the staff some questions that maybe not during my interview, but in passing or in Howard's case in the Zoom interview, um, having a real idea of how the school would feel and to know that you would be supported is also huge to me. Um, you don't want to go somewhere where you feel like you're on your own, which I think a lot of dental schools make a conscious effort so that it does not feel that way. But even still, kind of exploring those avenues and seeing which sort of professors and students you could see yourself having a relationship with, kind of putting yourself in their shoes, so to speak.
Yeah, so that's key. Um, were there anything specific for you as an individual, with you knowing you and how you operate? What were one or two things, or two or three things that were key that you had to have for one of these two schools?
So for me, one of the things I really wanted was early introduction into clinic. I really enjoy working with people, and I want to work in a diverse environment where I work on a lot of different people, and I learn how to cater to different ethnicities and backgrounds, cultural backgrounds. I think that's huge for me. Um, so that was a really big thing for me, and I wanted to go somewhere where, I go to a PWI currently. I wanted to go somewhere where I felt like I was amongst peers. Um, so I guess kind of broadening my horizons and just getting into a place, going to a place where I felt like I could grow was huge for me. Um, and like I mentioned, growth clinically for me, growth is meeting other people, maybe learning other languages. I've gone to a few volunteer clinics, and what I've noticed is translators are awesome. They help you interpret, but those doctors that speak the language of the people that they are serving give so much better care to the patient. I think it's a lot better experience for the patient because they're able to weigh in on some of the things that, if there's a language barrier, it's a little more difficult. So I think I just want to kind of put myself in those situations while I'm in school to meet people from different backgrounds and maybe grow some of those skills prior to graduation,
Yeah, that
prior to becoming
trust,
a dentist.
that we are trying to establish as oral health practitioners is key, because at the end of the day, that's all others can hang their hat on as they're determining who are they going to trust, who are they going to allow to help them, right?
Yeah.
Patients don't ask, hey, Dr. Hayes, hey, Dr. Byrum, uh, what was your GPA? What was your class rank? They're not asking those questions. And if they are, ooh, okay, who told you to ask that question? But that's another story. But they're not asking that questions. They know from meeting you and getting your energy, you know, whether what you're saying to them and how you interact with them, what you're saying to them is something that is genuine, and they know how you make them feel. And that's usually is part of how they determine whether or not they're going to trust you with their oral health, allowing you to help them with their oral health as well. So that's key. That is key. All right, so drum roll. We're gonna give the program school, well, not the program, but dental school program, the school, the reveal. Where will you be taking your talents to, and en route to becoming a dentist in 2028?
this moment in time, I am headed to Howard University
All
in Mecca.
right.
Yes, sir.
HU, HU,
Yes, sir.
HU. Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
HU. That's great news, man. I know um, we've been working together with the Hampton Roads Medical Scholars Program folks and our team to try to get you to this first milestone, right? Getting into dental school. Because trust and believe, there's a whole nother milestone after this, right? Once you set this goal, you always have to set the next goal afterwards. And
Absolutely.
now the next goal is finishing up with the class of 2028. So that's great, man. Um, Tips, advice, knowing what you know now, and this process that you've gone through. What
Yeah.
advice can
Um,
you give pre-dents? Three or four things that maybe you would do different sooner, or just just overall.
yeah. Um, One, I would say when you're looking at schools and you're trying to determine where you want to go, it can't hurt to, so many people, especially in our generation nowadays, are on social media. Reach out to somebody or go watch a day in the life video at some of these schools so you can get a real idea of what it would be like. And if you have the means, even go visit in some cases. That would be tip number one. Tip number two would be tip number two would be to start your shadowing and your volunteer hours as soon as possible. Um, Putting that off, it becomes a thing that you're trying to juggle while you're applying. And I think applying and taking your DAT together alone is plenty. So if you can get those hours ahead of time and establish a good relationship with a dentist in your area, it gives you a lot more room to work, a lot more time to spend on your application and your personal statement and those important
How early? How early would you say, are you recommending?
things. As early as you can. I mean, if you know it's what you want to do, like freshman year, as soon as you get on campus or while you're home on breaks, call dentists in the area where you're home, call dentists because it sneaks up on you quick. And next thing you know, you're going into your junior year and maybe your classes are a little heavy and you don't have the time to go shadow. So when you have the opportunity, I would say make use of it. Absolutely. Sooner the better. And I would write it down as you get those hours. Don't try and rethink, what did I do when and how long was I there? As soon as you walk out, I'd write it down. I was here today for this many hours, and it'll help you keep track when it comes time to apply because they want specifics.
And that's key that you mentioned that. I want you to continue with the tips, because all schools have all different types of shadowing hours requirements. Don't think that each school has the same amount of shadowing hours. And in some cases, there's one or two schools that I can think of where their hours are like twice as many as another school. So you're right. The earliest that you can start, the earlier that you can start quantifying and having those hours documented, because you don't know, as a freshman, you may not even know what schools you're going to be applying to at that time, but that's okay because at least you're documenting your hours. Better to have a lot than to not have a lot and need a lot.
That's right. Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Third tip.
Third tip. My third tip, kind of backpacking off what you just said there. Make sure you research the requirements at each school heavily because some classes are required in some places that aren't required at other schools, and that can really help you determine what you're going to take. And on top of that, I think you should get out there and get involved early. Um, when you're a freshman, when you're a sophomore, get involved in multiple clubs, and then you can see what resonates with you and narrow it down. But get involved with as many things as you can, get a real idea of what you enjoy, what groups stand out to you, because they do look at, I guess, leadership positions and in undergrad. So, getting your foot in the door somewhere early and then building relationships with those students can really help you strengthen your application later on.
Yeah, you mentioned the research of the school requirements. What did you do? Because that's a great tip, but now people want to know, all right, so how do I do that? How do I research the schools and put it and create it in such that I have it as a living document all the way up into the time where I'm applying?
Yeah. So I was kind of doing a couple different things. So there's another website, it's called DAT Booster, and excuse me, they do DAT prep, but they also have school requirements broken down. So you can look up DAT Booster, Howard University dental school requirements, and it'll have all of the classes that are required, recommended hours. It'll show you the previous year, like the average GPA of their accepted students, the average DAT of their accepted students. It'll show you required classes versus strongly recommended classes. And then I would also go, if you find schools that align with your goals and your coursework, I would then go onto their website directly and then double check all of those requirements. I know I spoke with some students. I know some students, maybe I think there's an ADEA handbook out there somewhere. I know it costs some money, but I know they do a breakdown of all the requirements for each school, and very similarly, the accepted GPAs and DATs of the prior year's students. But for me, the DAT Booster, the free version, was at least very helpful for me to get a ballpark idea of what these schools look like before I looked directly on their website and kind of got definitive answers.
Awesome, awesome. So that's four good tips. You have a fifth one?
I got a fifth one. I think it's the biggest one. I would say focus on yourself. Everybody's got a different path to this thing. Enjoy your journey. Don't get caught up in comparing yourself with who's next to you and what they're doing. Because like we mentioned before, it's comprehensive. Your application is comprehensive. So just because somebody has something or does something that you didn't doesn't mean that they're any more likely than you are to be accepted. So enjoy your journey and your path, and don't get caught up in what everybody else is doing next to you. I would say, just focus on you.
Great tips, man. Five great, outstanding tips. Focus on yourself. Don't compare yourself to others. Get involved with school activities, clubs, organizations early, because it's part of the application that schools will look at as far as leadership and other types of uh, related roles. Research the school requirements, right? Different ways to do that, creating a spreadsheet, looking at the different guides through DAT Booster, a DIA dental school guide as well, that breaks down all the different schools and all their different requirements, DAT scores, etc. Start shadowing as soon as possible, as early as freshman year, if you know early enough that that's what, if dentistry is what you are wanting to do. And last but not least, connect with students at schools. If you can visit, great, but this thing here is more powerful than most people recognize, right? Your cell
Absolutely.
phone, your mobile phone, where you can access social media accounts of students who not only have their own personal social media accounts, but they also are part of organizations who post information about the school and their club and their organization activities that you can participate with. Great opportunity for you to connect with them very easily by going into DMs and requesting more information about an upcoming activity. All great tips and advice for you pre-dental students. So hopefully you guys stayed all the way through and you're listening. And if you didn't get everything that we said, push pause, go back to the first segment, to this segment related to tips and advice, so that you can hear it again. And most importantly, implement these tips, implement the advice that student Dr. Avery, or future student Dr. Avery, has shared today. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you if they have further questions?
I would say probably email, or you could text me. My email is AVE, the whiz kid at iCloud.com. And my phone number is 757-560-2141. And you can text me with questions, email me with questions, and I'll get back to you as timely as I can.
There you go. Now, don't bombard him now. He's got to finish out this last semester so he can graduate, so that late this summer he can start his matriculation.
That's right.
So make sure that you contact him, but know that he's still working hard to get to the first finish line so that he can start on his way to the class of 2028 at Howard University. Man, thanks so much for your time, man. Very proud of you. Glad we were able to work together and help you get to this first step, this first milestone. This is great, man.
Thank you so much.
This is great, man. And we definitely want to follow your journey through dental school, because you thought senior year, junior year, and undergrad was tough. Wait until those 2 years and your sophomore year and your freshman year are all combined into your D1 year and dental school. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I don't know, change is good. So, I look forward to the challenge. I thank you for all your help along the way, and I really thank you for having me on here. And I think what you're doing is wonderful, helping kids get more information and figure out where they're going, because that is the toughest part of the entire process, is having a clear understanding of what the process looks like. And I think you're helping with that clarity. Absolutely.
Hey man, it's called ITAV. ITAV. It takes a village. And so we thank you for sharing your journey to get to your dental school acceptance. Guys, go to the next video. Go to the next video right now. Go, 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 go.